Welcome to Exploring Sovereignty with Elizabeth and friend of the show, Sharon Crowley from the Ohm Center of Healing. And we're in studio today with Kathy Van Gilder, who is an animal communicator, and we are delighted to have her with us. Thank you so much for saying yes to coming on Exploring Sovereignty.
Of course, Elizabeth, I'm so happy to be here and talk with you both.
Welcome. Very excited.
Definitely. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, because many of our listeners, this may be a new concept too, to have an animal communicator. And one of the reasons I was so excited to have you on, and Sharon, I think, also shares this with me, is both of us love animals. And for the longest time growing up, I always felt a unique or close connection with the animal world. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, many times more than humans.
You are not alone. Very
Fair.
common.
So tell us, what is an animal communicator for those who this may be a new concept to?
Yeah, that's a good question. So animal communicators, what we do is we are the bridge, typically the conduit, the telephone line, whatever you want to call it, between an animal and a human. So, if people are having questions about it's, typically a pet, sometimes it might be an animal that they just see, in the wild that comes and visits them often, but most of the time it's a pet. And horses are included in that, of course. And people have questions. They don't know what's going on with them. Maybe they have an issue. Maybe they're showing some strange behavior. Maybe they just rescued them and they're not sure what's going on. Usually it's some kind of question, some kind of issue. Sometimes people just want to feel more connected and understand them better too. So it's that. And then the animal communicator acts as a conduit between the two. So an animal communicator can connect up with an animal through telepathic communication, which is through images, thoughts, or feelings. And they receive that information from the animal, and then an animal communicator would tell the human about it. So that's, in simplest form, that's how it works.
That's awesome. And you've been doing this for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get into it?
Yeah, how'd you get started? Tell us.
Well, I've always, and I know we were chatting just a tiny bit about this before, but I've always felt a connection to animals. I can't remember as a kid not being able to communicate with animals. I don't have an aha moment. Some people I think might say that. I didn't have any. It just was always a thing for me. I could connect up and feel what the robin in the backyard felt, and the squirrel and the neighbor's cat, and all of that. But the kind of funny, I don't know if it's funny, but the interesting part about that, and there's a story behind this, is my dad was a biology major biology teacher. And so he loved the outdoors. So we would go on hikes in nature, areas and parks, and we would go camping all the time. But he loved the intellectual part of it. So he would talk about, from an intellectual standpoint, the tree, and the tree, and and this is this kind of tree, and here's this leaf, and here's the seed that comes from that, and here's this animal track, and that's this animal, and here's why. And so it was a lot of head-based. That was very interesting to him and not at all interesting to me. So I was on the other side, right? I'm on the other side of my brain, and I'm connecting with the trees, and I can feel them, and the animals around, and the birds and the squirrels and the bunnies and whatever else is around. And I can feel it all. And I feel one with them, and I'm connecting. And what the interesting part about this is, and I feel like the setup maybe for me to work through, was that my family was very not interested in anything beyond the five senses, and in fact, actually really afraid. So I learned very early on to pretend to be interested and then just be on that other side, doing my own thing, but I couldn't really talk about it to anyone. And, I was a sensitive child. I'm sure both of you were too, psychic, could pick up things, things about people, all of that. So there was that whole thing going on. And then eventually, as we get older, I learned to shut down. It was easier and I wasn't making waves and it just didn't work anymore. So I shut down. The doors never close, it never fully closes, but I just stopped listening and really stopped being in my authentic self and sensitive and all of that. So I went into a career, fast forward, I went into a career of healthcare and disease prevention. That was my thing. I thought, oh yeah, this is going to be awesome. And pretty quickly, because it was very physical body oriented.
Mhm.
I learned, and I think Elizabeth, maybe you can relate to that. And I learned that very early on that is not working, just because we're addressing the physical stuff. And this was a long time ago. This was like in the 80s. So that was I was sort of breaking ground. People were like, huh, what are you talking about? So I was given the gift, I think, from my soul to be able to have the freedom to be able to explore some of this within certain boundaries and be able to bring some of this to my field, which was so great, and learn about myself in the process. So that was all happening and I was starting to reawaken and open up. But it wasn't until a friend of mine introduced me to this intuitive healer, and who really helped me open that doorway again. So I did a few sessions with him. He cleaned up some things, a lot of stuff actually.
Yeah.
I needed that little boost, I think, to be able to get
Yeah.
that doorway open, and everything reopened and my sensitivity reopened. It was a shock actually, because, when you go from not being very sensitive or sort of sensitive, but ignoring it, to whoa, everything is, falling at me. And what am I seeing? And, all of these things. So anyway, I did that. And then a friend of mine and I decided to we could feel the call of our soul that we were really going to help people. And we were both intuitive. And that seemed like that was the way to go, become some kind of an intuitive healer. So we opened a space and did that for a while. And I knew something was missing. I was like, this isn't quite right. I know I'm a healer or some kind of healer. I don't know what this is. So one day I was watching television and this animal communicator came on. And I was like, what? What is she doing? Oh my gosh. And I mean, I sort of knew about animal communicators, but I really hadn't seen one in action. And so I was watching her and just so intrigued. And it was like a lightning bolt. It just hit me. And I was like, this is me. This is what I'm supposed to do. And I had animals in my life who were trying to show me the same thing at the same time. A cat who, not my cat, a friend of mine's cat, who would listen to everything I said, my words, and do it. Go sit over there. Go. He would do it all.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's
it was like, wow, what's happening? And I was a photographer too. I still am, and was doing family photography. And sometimes they would bring pets, and oh, that was awesome, of course, for me. And sometimes they'd bring a lot of pets, 3 or 4, and that can be a challenge, you can imagine. And I would get them all set up, and I would turn around and walk back, and compose the shot, and they'd all be staring at me, looking perfectly at the camera. So there
Oh
were
my
all these
gosh.
signs, and yeah, there was a lot going on. So, and they really taught me. And then once I started doing it, they really taught me about how animals are really here to help people, because that was the one missing link that I didn't understand, which is, well, wait a minute. I thought I was going to be healing people. I thought I was going to help with that. And they helped me see very quickly, oh, wait, no, no, there's a doorway there. And here's where it is. So that's how I got into it.
Well, what that is one of my questions for you is, did the animals in your life through this journey reflect where you were at with the journey and then further help you to either shed things that needed to be shed or gain insight?
Oh, absolutely. So, I was already working on myself, as I shared, I had already started that journey. So the animals were just enhancing that. And
Right.
so I can say that, every animal, I think I counted the other day, I went, oh, I've had 9 in my life. Um, every single one brought a gift, even the ones that I didn't know about, or that I didn't know before I didn't know about my gift. I had a dog I was in my 20s and then into my 30s, who would lick my face all the time. She was so loving, and I would be, "Why are you?" Only me, and she was a lab. So, and
Mhm.
labs are
I have a
so
lab. I love the
kind.
lab.
Yes, exactly, and so kind and wonderful and loving. But licking my face, and I've learned since then, I'm trying to open you up. I'm trying to open you up. And she was trying to bring, more lightheartedness to my life, and I took everything so seriously. And on down the line, each one has brought different gifts for me.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned too that the animals are here to help humans heal and to work with us and partner with us. How can you explain that a little bit more for our listeners here and how you see
Yeah,
that or
yeah,
experience that?
absolutely. So they do kind of, I guess, what most of us would see as the obvious thing. So they hold that vibration of love. You may not have ever thought it quite that way, but that's what
Mhm.
they do. They live in that frequency of love. They don't have egos like we do. They're just wired that way. They've come in to support us. I really see them as part of the angelic realm,
Mhm.
having souls like that, because that's how they can give, and they're just, unconditional lovers and givers. So yeah, so they come in and they hold that vibration and they hold that frequency. Even animals in the wild, the trees do that, all
Mhm.
nature does that for us. And they can show us unconditional love, who many people haven't ever experienced unconditional love from humans, or very, very little. And that animal can really help them start to experience that and feel what it's like. And once you get that unconditional love, you feel so much safer.
Mhm.
It's like that blast of mother's love, right? That
Yeah.
you never had. And all of a sudden you're safer and you can get out of fear and maybe see things in a little bit different light, right, in your life, and go, wow, okay, this isn't working for me. Let's move in a different direction. So they do those things. They also love to deliver messages telepathically. So that's where that animal communication comes in, where, they'll tell you, hey, especially an animal that lives with you that you're connected with, they know everything about you, everything.
Yes, they do. I
And they know your secrets, and now I have to preface that because some people, "Oh my gosh, I'm not gonna do a session with my dog because he's gonna say that I'm rotten." And I say, "Oh, no, no, no. I have never heard that out of any animal, not once. They see truth, they're gonna express truth, but they say it with such love and non-judgmental language, and so you just never have to worry about that. They're gonna tell you the truth, but they're not gonna say it in a way that won't hurt your feelings. It might be, like, shocking for a second, but, it won't hurt your feelings. So, yeah, they love to deliver messages about, "Hey, that job's not working for you," or, "That relationship, no." Just generic things. I mean, they're just so gifted at it. But they also love to deliver information through their bodies, their physical bodies too. They self-sacrifice. And again, I love to explain this to people so they understand that, animals have come for a different reason than we've come. And that is okay for them they take on things. They say,
I
I'm gonna
do.
take
I keep telling my dog Lyle, like, "Let it go." Something will be happening within the family structure, and I'll be watching it transform as people are healing or working through something because 'cause we're always in process, right? And my dog will try to take it on. I'm like, "No, no, no, your job's to hold and anchor love and joy. Don't, like, let it transform and leave." And so we'll work together, but, sometimes I feel like I'm healing or clearing with my family, and then it's like we're working together to make sure it clears all the way out and Lyle doesn't hold on to it.
Yeah. And that's a great story, Elizabeth, and that's so true. And, the other thing that they love to tell us about and remind us about, they remind me often, is about it's not the feelings we're feeling, it's the feelings we're not acknowledging. right?
Ah,
Oh, that's
that's
interesting.
big.
If you're
Yeah.
crying inside, they're not going to take that on. You don't need to worry. You're feeling it. It's going. It's leaving. It's the
Wow.
ones that we hang on to and we don't acknowledge. So it's what we're not acknowledging that they want to help with.
That resonates. Dang,
Yeah,
dang,
that
Kathy.
is a big one to chew on. Wow.
Yeah, it is.
Huh.
Yeah. So they help us with our physical bodies. If your animal gets hurt, gotta look inside. It's time to look inside and go, oh, do I have a wound? What's going on with me? There is, and it could be anyone in the family, like you said, Elizabeth. It doesn't necessarily the person they're most connected with. It can be anyone because they'll work with everyone who they live with. So yeah, injuries, some weird ailment shows up. It's time to take a look because they're absorbing it. So it's sort of like when we start to look at our bodies and go, oh, wow, I have the symptom. What's going on? It's the same thing with your pet. You need to look at, I know, it's incredible, isn't it?
It's amazing. Okay, we're going to take a pause, but we're going to continue the conversation because this is fascinating. We are with Kathy Van Gilder, an animal communicator, and we are exploring sovereignty with our animals and humans and the earth itself as we continue this conversation. Stay tuned.
All right. I don't know what happened to our screen here.
I don't know what happened either, but I knew we were at time. I was like, but I knew, no, nothing.
I looked and I went, oh no, I missed it.
That's okay. You're fine.
Sorry.
The screen unplugged where it had the timer, and I was like, I'm pretty sure. So I just started.
Let me see if the computer froze.
I can also
Can you work around that? Hopefully you can.
We totally can,
Yeah,
but I can also put a timer on my phone, Brett, and just work with
Yeah,
that.
let me see if it's I might just have to reboot it. Maybe this segment you might have to do it.
That's fine.
This thing gets rebooted.
How's it feeling to you, Kathy?
Great. You're hitting on all the passion points.
Oh, good.
Yeah. You guys are asking really great questions.
It is funny that during that thing, of course, Chad's dog wandered down here too.
Oh, Mia. Should we bring Mia on?
She's not down anymore.
I don't
now.
know if
She's
you
made
want
a
to bring
brief
Mia
cameo.
on.
Yeah.
Mia is so Chad owns the station. We're not recording right now, right?
No, you got nothing.
Well, I just want to be whatever.
Yeah.
Respectful and transparent. But Chad owns the station, lovely guy, and he is this really tall, big man, gentle presence, and he has this tiny, Mia. What is she? A Bichon?
Something like that. Yeah, probably not more than 10 pounds.
Not exactly. And Mia goes everywhere with Chad, everywhere. And there's and she's you're having a meeting with Chad, and he sets out a blanket on the table and puts Mia on the table with her dog treats. And he'll be trying to present something with a paper, and she'll come and lay on it.
I didn't talk about that yet, but they do that too.
What does that mean? Oh my God, it makes me laugh so hard.
Well, it's attention getting. And if it's a dog, there's a whole nother thing. So there's so much to talk about with this that we won't get to.
Okay. So, so explain, when we go into the next segment, so that I don't make you explain it twice, explain the difference between if it's a dog, if it's a whatever, where you were about to go.
Okay.
If you want.
Okay. That's another big one, but yeah, I can definitely.
And does animal symbolism, when you see different animals cross your path, does that come into anything you like to talk about?
I don't talk a lot about that, but I do talk a little bit. I just tend to refer people. There's so many books out there.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, then I won't hit on it.
And if there are certain things I could speak to, but I think that's a whole nother.
Sure.
Topic. But you can connect with those animals, and find out.
Well, and totally. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
I get excited.
I love you're so excited. That's awesome.
I get excited. And if you want to, either in segment 3, and this is up to you. Regardless, I would love to do a session with you at some point. But if you want to give the listeners an example, a glimpse, a 2-minute thing, you could. but you don't need to. You feel into that. Like
Do you
whether
want-
it's with me and my dog or Sharon and one
What
of
a
her
session
dogs.
is like.
Yeah,
is
well,
what
like
you're
what
saying.
Yeah, I mean, I was getting stuff about Mia. Is it Mia
yeah.
already? But maybe that's not.
I don't
mean,
know. Can
I
I?
always have to be careful with that because
I know. I'm
sometimes
like,
people say,
I
"Oh,
feel like
wow,
I'd have
do
to
it."
ask Chad that.
And I'm like, yeah, I have to filter.
I know. You could do it on my dog. You could do it on my dog. I feel like I would have to.
I think Mia would be great though, because that example of the paper is perfect.
Okay.
But
Well,
it could
if
be
you give me
generic.
if you give me 30 seconds to ask Chad's permission,
Okay. If it's
Then
uncomfortable, let's not do it.
give me
but-
30 seconds.
Okay.
Don't you
So,
think, Brett?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me
do
just
it.
ask Chad
Yeah,
really quick.
I think he'll probably be okay.
I'm sure he'll be okay, but
That
I
was very
I would feel-
generic.
would feel cleaner if I asked him.
Sounds good.
Oh, of course.
Give me 1 sec. Sharon just went to the restroom. If you need a bio break, feel
Thank
free.
you.
We'll be back in 30
Okay.
seconds.
Thank you.
And Chad or Brett's here still.
Yep, I'll still be here.
I don't know. He's on the call.
I think you're probably, maybe ask him after. Hey, we can edit it out if needed.
Okay, well, Mia came over and gave me a acknowledgement, but I couldn't get Chad. Chad was on a call, and Mia came over and gave me acknowledgement, but I couldn't get permission from Chad on it. So either we can do it, and if we need to edit it out, we can.
We
Or
don't have to say it's his dog. We could just say, so for example, but you probably.
perfect. There, yeah, let's do that. Is that
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
let's do that. Let's do that. Perfect. And yeah, okay, great. We ready?
I need a family session so badly. I'm so excited.
I know. I know. We're gonna leave this interview and just be like, okay, Kathy, let's stay on for another 5 hours and do some such. She was like, I got other things to do, people. Okay, Brett, do you just want to go like this when it's 2 minutes?
Yeah. The computer's doing a Windows update, I guess. So
Weird.
that's what's happening. So
Just
Yeah.
go like this, and then
yeah, I'll just tell. Yeah,
I think
I'll
it's
give you
a frequency thing.
Yeah.
Everything's being upgraded these days. Thank goodness. Okay,
All right, we'll stand by. Here we go on segment number 2.
sounds great. This is Exploring Sovereignty with Elizabeth and friend of the show, Sharon Crowley from the Ohm Center of Healing. And we're in studio with the delightful Kathy Van Gilder, who is an animal communicator and had made that transition from working in healthcare and reopening the gifts and talents and attributes you have always had from a very young age, and discovering that the journey for you helping people heal is by being an animal communicator, which is brilliant because our 4-legged and 2-legged and winged friends and fin friends are always, I think, communicating and holding a frequency that all living consciousness can shift into. So, okay, we get these little moments and breaks to have a conversation, and I'm going to bring the listeners in on it for a moment. As I was sharing that a friend of mine has a dog, and who gets to be in meetings or come to work, and this dog sometimes likes to lay on, because the dog gets to sit on the table. And if papers are being presented, sometimes the dog will want to lay on the papers. And I'm like, what's all that about? And delightful dog, beautiful dog, sweet, sweet, sweet dog. And Kathy, you had a brief insight on that.
Well, she is an incredible dog, first of all, and loves her human so
Right?
much, so much.
Agreed.
So,
I think
yeah,
it goes both ways, but
yes. Oh,
absolutely.
it does. It does. Yeah, she is completely devoted and loves him. So when an animal comes and I can speak to this situation in particular, and lays on papers, often that can be and in this case it's a dog. She's a dog. So, and there goes my dog in the background. And so dogs typically represent our hearts
Mm,
and how if we need attention or affection, oftentimes they can show us about that, but they really represent our hearts and they love to show us about our hearts. So chances are on that paper, something with that paper or that presentation or whatever this person is doing, there's something she's reminding this person to really connect back up with their heart. Maybe they've got out of body, maybe they've
sure.
gotten not grounded. Maybe there's something they're uncomfortable with in those papers. There's something that needs to be attended to, whether it's you go take a break and get grounded, or you don't like what's in this paper and these papers, or something around those lines.
And that could either be for the person the dog is connected to or for the person that is receiving the papers, right?
Most often it will be for the person that the human that they belong
That
that
they're
they're helping.
connected.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, exactly.
So
So most of the time in that situation, that's what it feels like to me.
got
And
it.
it was a message for him to pay attention a little more
Yeah.
closely.
Well, those papers got continued to be transformed. So that's
Oh, they
interesting.
were in a transformation process. I
Yeah.
see.
Like, what's this going to look like? And so,
So in that case, she was saying, this isn't quite right. This isn't a reflection of what you want in your heart with these to be. It needs to change somehow.
got it.
It's like a spiritual service animal.
No doubt.
They're therapists.
Yes,
they are.
absolutely.
And so dogs represent the heart.
Very much about the heart. Oftentimes, affection, the affection we might need, or attention we might need to give ourselves, but very much about the heart. Happiness, joy, all of those things. Yep. Cats, do you want me to, or do you want to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're just waiting for me to talk about cats. So cats it's feline, right? So they're feelings. They represent our feelings. And they can often show us that. They're also all about passion. Think about cats, and they get such a bad rap because like, well, they're not always loving. They do what they want to do. Yeah, they do. They show us about that. They show us, hey, you know what? You may not like that, but maybe you like that. Go for it. Be passionate. Find your passion. Do your passion. Do what excites you. So just kind of see where that's going and how
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
works.
So is that more about sense of self than it is heart, or is it, I don't know, logical thinking, focused? Are there better words than heart as it relates to,
We're
heart is
talking
to
about
dog?
the cat.
Yes, cat is to like another part of us.
Yeah, it's just another, like almost a different vibration of it,
Mhm.
even though we can lump all that together, heart and feelings and passion and all of that. It's a little bit different vibration, that
Yeah.
you can, if you think of it that way. So heart is really the child in our heart. If I say it that way, that might make more sense. So, our little child, what does our little child want? What does our little child need? Feelings, it's feelings that you're not feeling. That's usually what cats will tell you. Hey, you're not
Interesting.
acknowledging your feelings. And papers, if a cat lays on your papers on your computer screen, there's definitely something going on. Like, come on now.
My cat is constant with that. I don't know what to think of that.
Interesting.
I thought she just liked the heat.
Well, there might be part of that, but no, there's definitely a message. Horses represent ego They
Mm.
they
Oh,
don't have an ego, but they look like they do, right? To us, they
Yeah.
do,
could
but it's all
could
about
you
ego and power.
I was like, could you expand on that, like an example of where you
So
really saw that with a horse and a horse owner?
yeah. So, if like, for instance, if you get thrown off your horse,
Mhm.
right, you get
Yeah.
hurt and all that, it's either you're not comfortable with your own power or you don't like the power that you have or, something about your power. You're not comfortable with it, or you're too much in your ego. It could be that too. But
Oh,
We
wow.
oh, interesting. So my family and I go out west to the Tetons frequently in the summer to camp, and we ride horses. And one of us had a horse that liked his name was Newt. He liked to go down sideways down the
oh,
and I was like we were laughing. I mean, we could not stop laughing at this, like, because every time we had to do a decline, this horse went sideways with, um, with my husband on it, and so the boys and I could not stop laughing about it, and Pete was, like, holding on, but
so
yeah.
what do you think that is?
Well, I think, if reflecting on what you are sharing is like maybe not taking the most direct route with your power and ego, and that, maybe a
Safe,
more circuitous route instead of a more direct route.
safe.
Safe,
Yeah.
wanting safety.
I need
Yeah.
to go a little slower. I need to
Yep.
be safe.
Yeah, that resonates.
Well, and that gets me also thinking about, not everybody is comfortable with horses. They can be intimidating to some people. So
Very 1,000-pound animals that you
yeah,
don't
so
know what
then
they're
does that reflect in the human that maybe the human is not as comfortable
absolutely,
with their power?
Oh, that's it, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
Interesting.
I was chatting with, a client the other day, about their horse, and, she didn't tell me this, but she had been going through some family drama. Her mother had passed, and there was some, legal stuff they had to figure out, and I think the attorneys were she told me this after, being a little bullying her and wanting her to, settle how they wanted her to settle, and anyway, there was a different path, and she knew that her mom was trying to, guide her to this other path. But she brought up her horse, and she told me this later, but she brought up her horse before that and said, Kathy, I don't know what's going on with him. I think does he not like his food? He seems to be really agitated and
Mhm.
not listening to me. He normally listens to me. He's backing up almost into me. It's terrifying. He's 1,000 pounds. I love him, but it's really scary. And I said, and this is the message straight from him. It was, don't let your ego, and in this case her ego was, I'm afraid, I'm not going to follow through. My ego says, shrink, right, and don't speak up. And her horse said, no, you need to speak up and follow that path that is true. And so that's what she did. But they are amazing. I was just talking to a horse, was it yesterday, and
I
it's
love that sentence.
You know?
Can we just pause on that sentence for a second?
well,
Okay.
and with this, it's I don't always remember all the stories because you're so in the moment and
Yeah.
you're
Yes.
just channeling it in and saying it, and then you need to leave it. So I don't, but yeah, this horse was incredible, and you guys will love this story. So this woman hired me, and then we got on the call, and it was a different person, and I was like, oh, okay, what's going on? Well, this horse was in rehab in a totally different state. And so this person that got on the call said, well, I'm facilitating the call. She couldn't be on the call, or I don't know, something happened. So, and we were recording, so she could hear it anyway. And really, bottom line is, so they were worried. And I said, well, the horse has trauma. Yeah, we kind of figured. And so we talked through that a little bit. But what happened was, and this just, I mean, I guess it doesn't surprise me, but it does because it's
Right.
amazed, not surprised, but amazed, I guess.
Yeah.
So this horse was helping this human, and right away she had a message for her human who wasn't even there for 5 minutes. I think I delivered a message about the trauma and how they'd similar, and all this detail about all of that. And then she turned to the rehab person who was an energy healer and said, I'm going to help you. So this horse experienced
Wow.
trauma, right? And like we talked about earlier, the self-sacrifice went through that trauma, but it's so not like us because yes, she has the symptoms of the trauma and all of that, but it's the purpose is to help these humans. So she's helping this rehab, the energy worker really help gain her confidence,
Mm.
healing ability, and she's helping her human at the same time. And I was like, oh wow, I mean, guess it doesn't ever stop.
Isn't that beautiful? And I really am starting to think that we are drawn to those animals for that reason. So whether if we're
Yeah,
drawn to horses or we're drawn to dogs or we're drawn to cats, it's based on what our soul is working through.
very much so. And it's all orchestrated behind the scenes. So that animal always picks you, always.
Oh, tell us more about that.
Well, and it can change. I mean, this is something I've learned over the years. There can be an agreement and all that made, but sometimes it changes, or a human rejects the animal. I mean, I've certainly talked to animals where that happens, and I got to stay in the detached mode and go, okay, because the animals are able to do that, so we can learn from that.
We
way.
really wanted this kitten, but half my family is allergic to kittens.
Mm.
And the other half, everyone wanted the kitten, but we couldn't.
How long ago was that?
I keep thinking about this kitten. This was like a year ago. We were going to name him Messy. He was this little gray kitten,
That was a possibility for sure.
right?
Mhm. Definitely. I mean, it's fine. Messy has another home and all of that, but there's always
I'm
opportunity.
sure he's not named Messy anymore.
No, I'm thinking
It was after the soccer player, just so we're clear. Not that it was
yeah, so they all choose us and they come in at just the right time. When
right.
they leave at just the right time. So it's they choose us and they choose us. They have personalities, that mirror us. They can mirror back messages through their bodies, all sorts of things.
It's amazing, really. I mean, there's so much here. It's so rich, and what you're doing is so needed in the world as the vibration shifts on the planet, and everyone's being asked to move more into that love frequency. How can people find you who might want to work with you, who are listening? And what are you offering? And we'll talk more about it in the next segment too. But
Okay. Yeah. My website is probably the best place to find everything I have there. It's my name, KathyVanGilder.com. And I have, everything from courses to one-on-one sessions. And I have a book, and you can get a signed message if you want, all sorts of different things. So that's probably the best place to find me. I offer coaching sessions too, if you want to learn more how to connect with your pet, not just have a session, but learn more about how do I connect with my pet? Why are they here? You can go deeper.
amazing. I love it. And you also do photography, right?
Yeah, I'm a pet photographer. I did family photography for a long time too, but now it's just pets, and sometimes the humans, and that's actually really fun to bring in the humans and capture that connection and that specialness.
That's
I
awesome.
bet you can capture them in a way that not many photographers can.
Well, I love to bring out the heart.
Yeah,
That's what happens.
I
That's
suppose when
awesome.
you can see their heart, right?
Yeah, it's that energy. It's just
Yeah.
feeling that energy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're going to continue this conversation with Kathy Van Gilder, who's an animal communicator with great talent and passion for connecting with our animals and all the loved ones around us, as we continue exploring sovereignty with Elizabeth and friend of the show, Sharon Crowley, as my guest co-host. And we'll be back, so stay tuned.
All right. There we go.
Thanks, Brett.
Segment 2. Yep.
How you doing?
Good.
Good.
Are you guys liking what's coming
Oh
out?
my gosh, of course. Yeah.
Oh,
I
good.
feel I'm like,
I feel
wanna
like it's all for me.
I know. I want to learn like I have so much. I have so much.
Yeah.
And we have to thank Edward, Stacy Brenna's cat, for connecting us because
I have known Edward a long time.
have you?
I don't know how long, but a long time.
Because
Maybe
that's how
10
I found
years. What's that?
that's how I found you.
Yeah, I remember. And I knew that because Stacy did email me after whatever it was, and I didn't think anything of it. She's like, "Oh, I was on this whatever, and Ed came over and wanted to talk about you." I said, "Oh, that's sweet."
She told the whole class, like we were doing an energy course class, and she's like, Ed wants all of us to know about Kathy Van Gelder. And I was like, who's she? And I like jotted her down, your name down, and then
Yeah,
I pulled up
Edward
your
is.
tab and I was like, oh, I gotta reach out to her. And then I couldn't trace it back. Normally I'm really good about tracing back who refers what and whatever. But
Oh, I do have a
took me a hot
question
second.
about, I won't ask it or will ask it. Do you do anything with like pets that pass on and then come back to their
Oh, so my dog Lyle is reincarnated from my dog Cinder.
was my question. Things like that. Is that
Yeah, I
something
can
you
get
work
that.
with?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they want that known, and we can talk about this, but you don't have to have me for that because they're going to make it known. There's no way they're not going to not make it known. They want you to know that that's that same soul that's come
Mhm.
back. And you might want to ask me this because I think people would like it to hear
Okay.
that. But
I mean, yeah. And I'm happy to give that example if you want it, but
yeah,
I don't need to either.
I mean, I can tune into Lyle when we do that too and just see
Sure.
what he's told you. But
Sure. It's funny because he came back as well. Here, we'll do it on air because it's like I'm going to do this.
and very often they come back. They're spirit animals, so they'll come back lifetime after lifetime with us.
Mhm.
So it's sort of like a
We gotta
guardian.
redo all this.
I mean, it's this. That's
I agree. It's
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
Yeah,
I had a
we
little
all have them.
trying to
I
get
mean,
one
it could have been an elephant before.
I know. I think yes. Oh my
Oh,
god.
absolutely. Depending
Okay.
on when you
Very
were and
funny.
what was going on the earth and, who you were and yeah, they don't necessarily stay in that same.
Okay, we gotta start.
All right. Better get it going. Yeah. Before
Okay.
we'll go into the segment. What are we talking about now?
I know,
Yeah,
right?
All right. Here we go. Last segment of this one. And stand by. Here we go.
This is Exploring Sovereignty with Elizabeth and friend of the show, Sharon Crowley. We're in studio speaking with Kathy Van Gelder, an animal communicator who has great talent and passion for connecting with those loved animals of ours and helping us develop a more intimate connection and communication style with our animals. And so, Kathy, okay. I think and believe, and Lyle has communicated this to me, that he was reincarnated. He was my childhood dog in this life and came back for the resolution of what happened in my childhood. And he communicated that to me a few years ago and was very direct about it. Do you see, I mean, you can answer about Lyle too, but do you see that happens with people, that there's reincarnation of pets from lifetime to lifetime or within lifetimes? And if you want to, chime in on anything on Lyle, you're welcome to, but don't feel pressure to.
Well, to answer your question, yes, they often come back. If you have an animal that you are very connected with, so often they will come back. And the key is to not go search for them. So if, often there's a plan, even when they leave. So, I communicate a lot with people who are is it time for I don't know. Is it time for my animal to leave? Do they need assistance? What do they need? And they often so want to know if they're going to come back. And the answer usually is yes. If you have a pet that you are very connected with, it's either that or they will be orchestrating behind the scenes some soul that's even better that you need for that time in your life. So they're always working. They're always working for you. Even if they stayed in heaven and they brought another soul with, it's the same. I've got a cat right now. His name is Cosmos, and he is the twin. It's a different situation, but this can happen too. He is the twin soul of our other cat, Gabriel. So we have Gabriel in heaven and Cosmos here, so that we can get, well, double the trouble and double the help, right?
Right.
So yeah, but that can happen. So, and they don't necessarily. If it's the same lifetime, what I find is often it'll be the same type of animal, maybe not the same breed necessarily, but often it will be, because that's kind of what your heart wants. And the animal knows what you'll respond to best. But yeah, they can come, and then they can come in lifetime after lifetime. So we call that a spirit animal.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, you can think of it like your guardian angel, right?
Totally.
But they're an animal in the flesh coming here, and they are in fur or scales or feathers, and they are here to help you, and they will continue to support you. So it happens a lot of different ways. Sometimes it can just be an animal that comes in for a blip, a short amount of time. We had a dog that did that, and we needed him for that reason, a specific reason. So with Lyle, Lyle loves you, Elizabeth, so much. He's got the most tender heart and the biggest heart, and he's just so loving. I can't get over his energy.
Yeah,
he's like butter. He's just so
he
wonderful.
is like butter. That's a good way.
Oh my goodness. So yes, he's come back, and he said, but Elizabeth, just so you know, it's not just for the wound, it's also for you. He wants your soul and your heart. He brings you so much happiness and joy.
Totally.
So he says, don't forget about that piece, because that's a big piece of it too. And he said, you're so comfortable with him that it's okay. You can let down and feel, and you can be your authentic self no matter what. Now, this is true for a lot of people with their animals, but I can really feel it with Lyle. To be yourself with him in a way that you can't with anyone else. And he's so honored to serve in that role. And he reminds you, sorry, I'm going on. So I'll say one more thing, and then
Keep going.
Elizabeth, he reminds you of often that you need care, because often you will go and take care of the kids or whatever and do other things. And he's the one, I think he looks at you. He's showing me he looks at you sometimes. He gives you looks. Sometimes he stops you. He says he stops you from doing that and really reminds you. So he'll
sometimes come in and, like, if I'm doing something in the morning, like brushing my teeth or washing my face, he'll sit there and then he'll let me do his eyes, like put some water in, and then he'll join me for my morning routine.
So one more thing about the animals that's important to know is that I don't think we always think about, but they remind me of this often. When we care, even though they're here for us, which is hard for us to remember, but that's true. They're here for us, but we do take care of them, right? We give them food and water, and we brush them. All of those things, the animals say, helps us.
It's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm going to jump in here because now I have a burning question. So I've got a lot of animals.
She does.
And so in the case of my home, I did have, a singular golden retriever that really felt like my dog, and she passed. And then we ended up with another golden retriever and a Newfoundland, and I inherited a lab as well. And so now there's a lot of chaos in my house. So I have a lot of questions in this, but I'm wondering, when there's more than one animal in the house, is there an agreement ahead of time, or is it something they have to work out based on we've drawn these animals to us, somebody in the family perhaps? Do
Right.
they have to an agreement where they have to work it out, or is it something that happens ahead of time?
So they're always mirroring. They're always a mirror. They're always
Yeah.
helping us to see. So
Yes.
they don't really have anything to work out, but it might look that way. And it
Okay.
looks that way to us,
Okay.
right? So sometimes when there's conflict between animals, it can show us about maybe some unhealed conflict with a
Right.
relationship or with ourselves or, whatever it might be. It can show us that. Some animals I find, it's kind of funny to say it this way, you'll laugh probably, but prefer to work alone.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and some are happy to have support and help. And sometimes there's so much work to be done if there's a lot of people or just a lot going on that they need support. It's like, it's too much. So
I think that's probably absolutely true about my house. But I have this Newfoundland, which she's just pure love. She is just a little honey. But this Newfie wants me to spend most of my evenings petting her, and she'll get on the couch and say, "Pet me." And that more than once, it's popped into my head, like, what are you giving back here? What's going on? Where I'm just petting you all day long, which I do feel very peaceful when I do. But
Ah,
it's very
I
interesting
think
because,
you might have answered your question.
right? But the other
we
dogs,
did before too.
what's that?
I think we did earlier too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it so you can look at it two different ways. It's the same. It's
Uh-huh.
the same exact thing. One is, oh, she knows you need it. She
Uh-huh.
knows you need love. And the other is, I'm mirroring back to you. You need attention. It's the same thing. No, it doesn't.
Isn't
Does
it a
that make sense?
fantastic? Yeah, it does. It's just such a fantastic thing. I
Yeah.
love the chaos in my home, but there's a lot of people and there's a lot of animals. So
Well, the
it's
animals they're doing okay. They're okay. They would like it to be just a little calmer if it could, or at least to have some quiet time because they need that.
absolutely. Yeah.
And they're showing me a picture of they really would like to go outdoors a fair amount because what do? They get grounded, right?
Yeah.
They can clear that a little easier for them.
They do
So
need that.
so that's a good thing. They're all working really hard over there, and they love you. They all love it, and I can tell you they all love their jobs. Not
Isn't
one
that
I
funny?
heard that they didn't. Not
Oh,
from
good. Well,
one.
that's good to know.
Yeah.
I find this so fascinating because I've always been so drawn to animals, and I do feel safe. That's a place where I always feel safe is with the animals.
Totally.
It's like it's almost like, but they have personalities and it's a little bit different, but it's almost like hugging a tree, right?
Yes.
It is.
I love hugging trees.
Well, and I think
Yeah.
that's a vibration and frequency thing,
Mhm.
isn't it?
It
I mean,
is.
because we
There
really
is that's not a coincidence. It's
Right.
absolutely true. Yeah. And think about a cat's purr, right?
Uh-huh.
And the
Right.
vibration of that and the
That's a
healing.
vibration. You
Yeah.
bet.
Birds.
I had a dog, Emma, who used to take the dirty dishes out of our sink and put them in the middle of the middle of the living room and lick them clean and leave them there.
Wow.
She was brilliant, but I was like, I would come home and I'd be like, and this is like right after we had our first boy. So I think she was,
Totally. It was the
Trying to-
mess. It was the mess. And yeah. and
I'm going to
growing-
clean this up.
Yes, it totally was. Totally the metaphor.
You
got
were brilliant.
Yep. But it's also showing you what was going on too at the same
Totally.
time. Yeah.
I was a hot mess after my first
Well,
baby.
Understandably. But
There was a lot going on.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
interesting because I have for many years had the viewpoint when I look at other people that their animals mirror them, so that it's almost like they take on some of their burdens and some of their joys and those things. But this idea that you're presenting me today is something that is such an aha where to be able to understand that they're reflecting and helping me is
I know.
it's such a
And
one.
that, and that they're conscious of it completely.
That they're
Yes.
conscious and that they've chosen us.
Yeah.
It was like is so, and that they help us absorb and transmute some of our denser energies so that we can move into more of that
Very much so.
frequency of love and that higher vibration feeling and thinking state that is the full potential of a human.
Right.
And we're here to manifest that at this time on the planet and going forward.
Right. And
Well,
the
and
animals are even more involved than they used to be because of all that.
100%.
right. And
Way
I
more
was
involved.
just
And sharing, I like sharing more downloads. They share
Yes.
far more with me than they used to.
Oh,
Far
that's
more.
fascinating. I remember when I was young, I would like animals would get hurt in my backyard and I would wrap them up and like take my doll bottles and fill them with water and then I'd make my parents bring them to the vet. Like I'm like, we gotta like
yeah, we do that.
I was like,
Yes.
this animal, this bunny, this bird, like
And remember, though, there's a message there always, even
Mhm.
with that.
Mhm.
So,
yeah.
yeah. If they get hurt, if they hit your window, what's going on? Yeah.
What can't you see? That's right. In plain sight.
Right. Or a glass can be illusion. You know?
Oh, yeah.
What is illusion? What are you not seeing? What do you need to break through
Yeah.
that you didn't? So yeah, there's so many. I had a cat the other day that was telling her human about. I said, "Oh, she sings," and she goes, "Well, I don't know, Kathy, if she sings." And I said, "Well, she uses her voice. She says she's singing." And I said, "Is that something that because she's telling me it's all for you, and you need to take notice." And I said, "Do you sing?" She goes, "No, but I do sound. I love to do sound out of my voice." And I said, "Well." She goes, "She does it all the time." I'm like, "Yeah,
Isn't
I
that-
can show you."
okay. I feel like we could talk to you for like 8 more hours. And unfortunately, we're winding down, but I want to make sure that people, where are you located? Do you work with people all over the world? How can they connect with you?
That and the course
And the
courses you have
course,
available
yeah.
too.
Yeah. So I am in Minnesota, but I work with people all over the country and anyone and Europe and anyone who can speak English, since that's my only language I can speak fluently anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, anyone anywhere really. And I'm sorry, what else did you ask
Oh,
me?
and how can people find you?
Oh,
Like
right. So
and your courses.
my website's the really great place to start. Everything is there, kathyvangilder.com. I've got courses on there. I've got a course on how to talk to animals. And in that course, I was guided to put information about who animals are, what their roles are. It's not a very long course. It's only about 2 hours. So it's pretty digestible, but it really will teach you a kind of a background of animals and then also how to start communicating with them. And the vibration, the meditation that I have in there is a
Yeah,
frequency that
you have a free visualization that people can
I do.
work with, and also a YouTube channel.
I do. Yep. So I have a visualization, and I think that Elizabeth will include the link there. You can get that, and you can connect up with your animal right away and try that. If you want to go further, take the course I was just talking about. I have a YouTube channel that I'm going to be putting. It's fairly new, so there's not much on there, but I will be putting a lot of videos on there actually about
Awesome.
decoding animals' messages and things like that.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Thank
Kathy
you.
Van Gilder. This is Elizabeth and Sharon with Exploring Sovereignty, finding pathways that set yourself free with heart-centered thought leaders. And Kathy, you are definitely one of those. So thank you for your time and generosity today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's just been a joy talking to you both.
Oh my gosh, so fun. Thank you.
I'm sorry about the head
Right.
clink on the microphone.
We're good.
We're all
What-
good. Yeah,
what
yeah,
do you
it's
I
all
think?
good.
kept clinking that because I was so
Wow.
excited to hear, and I'd lean in and clunk.
I didn't even notice. I didn't notice.
So where am I?